Whenever you're ready.
All right. I'm Stephen Lynch, and I'll be reading the essay that I wrote for our first assignment, dealing with The Wind-Up Bird by Murakami Haruki and the Love Suicides at Sonozaki by Chikamatsu Monzaemon. This is without any of the editing that Manuel did, so.
What happened to the edited version?
It's probably in my notebook, which is not with me because this is an off day. I don't carry things with me typically unless it's the correct day of classes.
So this is your paper raw?
Yes, this is my paper raw, which isn't much different from edited, I don't think. It might have just been a little bit clearer when you were up on the desk, and that provides clarity and gives you a little bit more impact when you orate. So, alright, I guess we'll just start. Presented in high contrast, Chikamatsu Monzaemon's The Love Suicides at Sonozaki portrays love in stark black and white terms, providing little concession for the tones of gray used in Murakami Haruki's The Wind-Up Bird Chronicles. Tokubei and Nohatsu, the two young lovers in Chikamatsu's play, are certain in their dealings with love, absolutely devoted to one another, and committed to an understood end. In moving closer to the present, the perceived clarity of love is lost, growing blurry and out of focus in our introduction to the modern Okada marriage as it's presented by Murakami and Wind-Up Bird. Toru, the narrator and husband, is at first content with his marital arrangement, not necessarily certain of either his or Kumiko's full devotion to the artifice of love, but comfortable in the life they have eked out. Between the two, we find a clear distortion, permeating our very idea of love as it is represented between the two periods. Though both accounts, like any other, literary or factual, are tainted by the author's perspective, and in this case the unreliable narrator who voices each, they still provide insight into the societies that produced each. These insights allow us to examine why the two examples, though inverse to one another, exist as a part of a natural progression in the evolution of love and the relationship. Chikamatsu's lovers seem filled with passion, emotions so strong that they are driven, in spite of society's restrictions, to express their love in the clearest possible manner, through an act of suicide. Little concern or time is wasted on the nitpicking of Tokubei's gullible nature, or Ohatsu's eagerness to comply with his every whim, faithfully. Age, personal interest, defects, and even conflicting professions seem to matter little in the world of absolutes that Chikamatsu crafts, all trumped by the notion of tragic love. This whitewash of details is fitting given the period, as the average lifespan was notably shorter and life was very much a brief and absolute affair. However, Wind-Up Bird, with its slightly more up-to-date interpretation, seems to highlight the modern obsession with details that is inherent in both our lives and relationships. There is more time to contemplate issues of varying degrees of severity, to wonder further about how and why, the how and why of life. Toru and Kumiko, the husband and wife of Wind-Up Bird, are actually subjected to the rigors of a real and arguably modern relationship, with its extended emphasis on cohabitation and the overall internalization of love and relationship within their society. Though they may not shout their love from the rooftops or express their fidelity in blood, their relationship is no less meaningful than the flashy stuff favored by Chikamatsu. As murky and uncertain as Murakami's representation may seem, it is arguably one result of a society that has notably matured and slowed down as technology and education have improved the overall standard of living. With the extension of life, as mentioned earlier, the notion of love and relationship have developed into a far more introspective affair, with a large burden being placed on those individuals in the throes of either. Consequently, it has even provided the chance for two individuals to arguably fall out of love, as they are presented with a far more daunting notion of what exactly a relationship entails in the modern world. Gone are the days of young and blindly devoted lovers, unmarried and surrounded by what would seem to be a copious amount of ill-fated, star-crossed compatriots, constricted and marginalized by matters of class and station. A learned helplessness, if you will, left to seize control of what they can and dictate it as they see fit. So, that's it.
So how do you feel? Do you agree with what you wrote a few weeks ago? Still? Any revisions in terms of ideas?
Not really. I mean, I agree with what I wrote. I still feel that way. I don't really usually think all that much about revisions with any of my work. Kind of sounds pompous saying my work with papers for classes.
Oh, it's your
That's
work,
pretty much
man.
all I do anymore. Because usually in my writing process, I delete things about probably 30 to 50 times. I delete pages a lot. I don't really keep what I originally set down.
So you're revising as you're writing.
Yeah, I revise a lot, and I'm not very. I don't stick with a lot of things. I overthink it, so I think that's why, in terms of what you were asking, I don't really think about after the paper's done, because I spend so much time while I'm doing it that I'm not necessarily sick of it, but it's done. It's out of my mind, and it's not really something to obsess on anymore. Yeah. So.
What was the process of writing that you usually go through?
Well,
Is it longhand? Do you go straight to the computer?
I usually go straight to the computer. I mean, I have ever so often I'll write some things down, but that's usually just like a stop loss method when I'm closing in on a deadline and I'm trying to put down thoughts that are in my head as I go through the course of a day to try to use free time in classes and in between classes. And honestly, I haven't written out much probably in the past 10 years. I don't think I have since I was really forced to in grade school, honestly. Especially with the onset of computers and with using them a lot more, I usually just sit down and type it out. I do try to make a point of reading it aloud and kind of getting it off of the computer screen, because I know that kind of fosters a lot of bad habits for people, and they miss a lot of really, really easy grammar mistakes and spelling errors. But yeah, I usually just sit down and I try to go at it for random periods of time. But I think it's the fact that it's so easy to get rid of whatever I've written that probably encourages my behavior. So I mean, I can delete a page without really putting much thought into it, and then it's gone, and I have a clean slate. I start again, which isn't very helpful when you're trying to be productive. So.
Did you say you write like stop and start like throughout the day? You work on a little bit of here, a little bit of there, or just in one sitting?
It's a mix of both. Because typically I can't sit for very long periods of times. Like I can focus on things, but usually that last large block of time that I sit there is like the night before, or like a couple of nights before. Other than that, I usually try to peck at it, and I don't do that enough. Like I think if I would actually start earlier and kind of put out things through like the week or so leading up to a paper, it would probably be a lot easier process. As it is, I usually sit there for one chunk of time before the paper's due, and like I say, I go through so many revisions of one page that it's really hard just to even finish off a page of like a 5-page essay. So it's kind of problematic.